whiskey, a bottle of pills. You're still trying.
Welcome to Grit for Life Radio. I am your host, Nate Parks. And we're doing a little bit of a unique Grit for Life podcast today because we are doing it on the move. What I mean by that is I am out and actually about trying to multitask in a way, even though multitasking is kind of funny because many times when we say that we are multitasking, we're really only doing one thing at a time. But I had something that I really wanted to share with you all this morning, and I was going to do it on a video for our YouTube channel. And if you don't subscribe to our YouTube channel, I challenge you to go check it out at Grit for Life on YouTube. But then I thought, you know what? I think this would be just better done as a podcast. And we have been working currently in Grit for Life. We've been running through our most recent workshop, Living Wild and Running Free. And so we haven't been steady on the podcast as we normally are. If you subscribe to our podcast, you're on iHeartRadio or Spotify or other podcast platforms. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your support. If you're brand new to Grit for Life, I want to welcome you. Grit for Life stands for Getting Ready and Training for Life. And we are found on TikTok as Grit Nation. We're found on Facebook as Grit, which is an acronym. Grit for Life, as well as Facebook group and YouTube, and right here on this podcast. So what is it this morning that got me deciding that, hey, this message is so on my heart that I want to share it, and while I'm doing everything else, so I do apologize if you hear no different noises in the background. We are not in our studio. We're, like I said, we're out and about. Well, not we, I. And since you're listening to this podcast, you're out here with me, out here getting some things done. And what made me say, hey, I need to get this podcast taken care of. I need to get it out there. I need to get this message. I started my morning off, as I strive to do every morning, with something where I just spend some time getting my mind prepared for the day. And one of the first things that I came across this morning, which I truly believe is vital and important, is that I came across a saying by David Goggins. Now, if you're not familiar with David Goggins, you can check him out on YouTube, and he's on numerous podcasts. I don't know if he has his own podcast or not, but he also has written a book called You Can't Hurt Me. He's a former Navy SEAL. He is an athlete beyond recognition. I don't even know. Ultra marathoner. There you go. I was trying to think of what he classifies him as. But he's an ultra marathoner. This guy is very open about his life, about the struggles he has gone through, and what he has done to overcome so many things and become who he is. And one of the things he said, or a saying that I came across this morning, as I just spent some time preparing my mind and my body and my soul this morning to get my day going. He says that if you are not controlling your mind, and I may not get this correctly, so David Goggins, if you ever listen to this, I apologize. I'm just going to maybe kind of paraphrase it. May even get the words directly right, but let's go with it. The saying that he said was, if you are not controlling your mind, you're being controlled by your mind, and you're fucked. And that really hit me. That was one of the first things I read this morning. And in Grit for Life, we have, if you're familiar with us, you know that we focus on mind, body, soul, motivating the mind, building the body, and searching the soul. And this is something I've learned myself. And I would imagine David has learned a lot of this through his military time, through his ultra marathoning. I learned it a lot in the military. I learned it a lot that you're going to come across, we had this saying, embrace the suck. And you're going to come across times where you're not happy, you're not comfortable, you cannot really change the situation you're in right now. But you can change your response to it. And you have to be able to control your mind. Because if not, your mind will control you. Now, that's the first thing that I came across this morning. And then that led me into just starting to really think about it, chew on it, and then each morning I try to find several different motivational videos or something that I can do that will help me just continue a thought process throughout the day. And I came across something that talked about being nobody. And I thought this was interesting because, now spoiler alert, if you watch the Netflix series The Last Kingdom, I say spoiler alert, but it doesn't really spoil anything, and I'll keep it as vague as possible for those who may want to watch the series. I highly suggest it, or are watching it. Maybe you're not as far into it as I am, but in it there's a character who is a little boy, and there is a warrior that comes across him, and I know, again, I'm being vague, so not to really spoil anything. And the warrior asks the boy, "Who are you?" And the boy says, "I am nobody." Now, I will tell you, originally, when you hear this come from a little boy's mouth, it kind of hits you in the gut. Because, wow, this kid thinks he's nobody. And that's the feeling that the show's trying to get across, that, wow, that's sad that this kid believes that he is nobody. Now, the thing about it is, this kid really isn't nobody. He is actually royalty. He doesn't know that, though. He's not been raised to know and understand that he is royalty. He has been told for his protection that he is nobody. Now, you take that to some thought patterns that I started going over today, and you begin to take that into the context of controlling our mind so that our mind doesn't control you, and you add that into the saying in the video I watched about not being somebody but being a nobody, and it really has a very powerful message. So we think the context of that little boy saying he is nobody is being sad, because we're all, you know that thing, well, we're all somebody. I know growing up in a very religious environment, I heard the saying quite often that everybody is somebody because God don't make junk. Okay, that feels good. It sounds good. Woo! God don't make junk. Everybody's somebody. I feel good about myself. But today I want to take a look at this in a different context. I want to take the look at this in the context that we have spent as adults. If you're listening to this, you have probably spent most of your life attempting to be somebody. And in doing so, feeling as if you are never successful and never good enough to be somebody. You see, that somebody and that somebody phrase, that somebody word is very broad. It's like painting with a very broad brush. Who is that somebody you're trying to be? How do you find out what that somebody looks like? Who told you to be that somebody? Why did you try to be that somebody? Who defined the somebody? See, all those things really have no true answer, because if you really think about it, being somebody has a few meanings to it. And one of the things is it's so broad because that somebody's not defined. And the other reason that we always try to be somebody is because we are trying to validate who we are. We're trying to validate to our families that I am good enough, that I am somebody. We try to validate it to our work and to our bosses and to our coworkers. Hey, pay attention. I'm ready for that promotion. I'm ready to move up because I am somebody. I'm good enough to be somebody. We try to show that to the world through social media, by posting things on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, doing crazy dances, doing social media challenges, having our voice and our opinions put out there because why? We want to prove to the world we're somebody. We want to be validated. We want to get noticed. And then we are trying to prove it to ourselves as we look into the mirror. Hey, I'm somebody. And sometimes that's followed with a question. I'm somebody, right? Too many people every day are spending every day, every waking moment of their life pursuing this elusive dream of being somebody. And I say elusive dream because when do you ever really get to be somebody? Is it when you're making a six-figure income? Well, as soon as you're making a six-figure income, someone may think you're somebody, but there's someone else who is probably doing it better than you. So are you a somebody? Or are you just an anybody? We'll say that again. Do you ever really become a somebody? Or do you always just become an anybody? Now you say, well, Nate, thanks for that encouragement today because, wow, now I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm really feeling like I just am unable to achieve anything. And I have been looking for that validation and you just tore it down. And I'm sitting here now more depressed than I ever have been before. Well, that's not my intention. And let me continue on and hopefully share something that might enlighten you and change your way of thinking. Instead of trying to be somebody today, in an essence, try to be like that little boy on The Last Kingdom who is royalty, but says he's nobody. You say, wait a minute, what do you mean? You want me to be nobody? What does that mean? What does that look like? I'll tell you, it hit me today that it looks like freedom. You see, the reason that we try to be somebody so many times in the world is that we've spent our whole life being told that we have to be somebody. And I get the concept of it. I get the concept as a parent tries to tell their child, hey, be somebody. You can be anybody. Be somebody. And they try to point out heroes and people who are successful. And there is an element of that is important because we do need to learn different tools and techniques and strategies for life from people who are successful. But in doing that, are we trying to be that somebody? Or are we trying to be anybody? Or should we learn to be nobody? You see that there you go again, talking about being nobody. But what do you mean? I'm not catching on. We many times are compared. Young girls compare themselves to other superstars and singers, and they try to be that somebody. And when they can't be, and they can't rise to that level for whatever reason, or they're unable in their mind, it goes back to that thing that David Goggins said, of where if you are not controlling your mind is controlling you, and you're fucked. In their mind, they are trying to be somebody, but they feel they are nobody, and so then they feel not validated. They don't feel good enough. They don't feel successful. They don't feel beautiful enough, or handsome enough, or men strong enough, or talented enough, making enough money. Why? Because we're always trying to reach that somebody. In the concept of learning how to be nobody, we can find that ability to learn to live wild and run free. What I thought about today is that, I have people that have said, hey, you look like somebody I know. It always makes me nervous because then all of a sudden that validation need or desire or concept is brought up. What do you mean I look like somebody? I look like somebody. Who do I look like? Did you think that somebody looked good? Or did you think they look bad? When you say I look like somebody, Are you saying that in a positive manner, or am I reminding you of someone you don't like, or someone you thought was ugly, someone that was hideous? The concept of learning how to be a nobody is truly a concept of learning just how to be you. I don't want to look like somebody or anybody. I don't want to be successful like somebody or just anybody. I don't want to remind people of somebody else. Instead, I want to be me. Just nobody. I want to be able to sit there and pursue my dreams. I don't want to have to compare myself to other people. I don't want other people to sit there and compare me to somebody else. When we can break free and say, you know what? I don't have to be like anybody or somebody. I just have to be the best version of me. And I do that through several things. I do that through the idea of, you know what? Be present. Learn to be present in your life right now. What's going on around you right now that you can control and you can't control? Be grateful. Learn to be grateful for the things that are going on. Learn to be grateful for even the times that are rough, because those times are given to you to form you, to build you, to shape you, for you to learn, so that when you face another thing, such as the moment that you are facing right now that you feel is unbeatable, you will go, hey, I remember that one time where I thought that I was going through something that I would not make it through, and I made it through it. Be grateful for the things that you have, and not trying to compare the things that somebody else has that you may not have right now. When we do that, we're not present. When we do that, we're comparing ourselves. When we do that, we're setting ourselves up for that feeling of being unvalidated and unsuccessful and unable to be anybody. But when we can grasp the understanding that you know what? I don't want to be anybody or somebody. In reality, I just want to be nobody. I just want to be something and someone that the world has never seen before. Unique, different. I want to be me. This is a concept that, without realizing it, I've lived for a while. I don't strive to hold down any particular trend or style. My style's all over the place, depending on the day or what I am doing. I wear clothes for comfortability and practicality. If I am on my ranch, I'm wearing cowboy hat, cowboy boots, jeans, and a comfortable work shirt that I can get dirty. If I'm going to a concert, I might dress up a little bit different. At the same time, my wife and I love to go to Comic-Con and cosplay and things like that. So you might see me in some form of steampunk or character. I don't like wearing sports stuff, so you'll probably never see me in anything sports related. But I had someone one time in my life who stated, "You just don't know who you are." And I said, "What do you mean by that? I don't understand." "I don't know who I am." And they said, and they used my style of clothing as an example. And they said, "Well, you just are constantly changing your style." And I looked at them and laughed, and I said, "But no, I'm not. My style is me. It's not designed after somebody or anybody. It's designed after me." And so I challenge you today to really start taking a look at why you do what you do. Start digging deep into the things that you are about and ask yourself, am I doing this because it's what I am? Am I doing it because it makes me happy? It helps me pursue my ethos of living. It helps me reach the goals that I want to achieve. And are those goals based upon somebody or anybody or just nobody but me? Am I comfortable in my skin? Can I look in the mirror and say, hey, I love you? If not, why is it? Is it because I have pursued a life of constant validation, of trying to attempt to please somebody or anybody instead of nobody but myself? So learn to be present, learn to be grateful, learn, most importantly, to simply accept you for you. Work on you because it's what needs to be done, not to be somebody else, but to be the best version of you that you can be. Because this world needs you. You are the only one that can do you. Don't try to do somebody else. Your response is your responsibility.
A bottle of whiskey